When Arturo when Arturo Sanchez was being unfairly canceled by the FGC, I was doing a lot of content around it at the time, and I was streaming and having conversations, but I had to be particularly careful about what I chose to put out. So I have some old footage that I had from a conversation from one of my streams that I chose not to put out. Not that it wasn't a decent conversation, but it just might have ruffled a few feathers and attacked a few people that I just didn't feel like would be conducive for the success that I wanted in making sure that people truly understood that there was no guilt associated with his name. So I'm going to go ahead and release that conversation now.
So you still haven't answered that question. Who is they? What did I say? Every time. So here goes the main point. As I've said from the very beginning, he left. Of course he left, because he couldn't answer any question. He would say stuff like, he would ask questions like, he would say stuff like, what they're accusing him of. And I've asked, who's they? Let me talk. Who's they? What are these accusations could be solved. Which accusations? What are the accusations? Everything I'm asking him, he refuses to answer. Do you see why this is a problem? Nothing. No matter what I say, he's not actually engaging. He wasn't trying to have a conversation. He was just there to make sure that he looked good, because he sees now that people are starting to catch on to what he's doing, and it's harmful. And again, I don't know how many times I can make the statement. I understand it's not intentional. I see that you're not going out of your way to attempt to hurt this person. I get that. But at the same time, when we're telling you, yes, this is hurtful, that's enough. I shouldn't have to. I get your intention. This is the stuff that I keep dealing with in other situations. When I'm telling you this is problematic, don't tell me, well, I didn't mean to. I don't care about your intentions. What you're doing is harmful. And Beef Uteki's in chat, Smooth, because what did I tell you? No matter where where the drama is, Beef Uteki and D-Nice are there. They just don't want to smoke with the real one. Because see, at the time when I originally encountered this conversation with Beef Uteki, I wasn't informed. So I let him get away with a bunch of nonsense. Now I know. Now it's like, oh, no. I got the receipts. I've seen more receipts than you have. Now have that conversation. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm done with the situation. Remember how he was done with the situation? Where's Beef Uteki right now defending Rob in his chat, right? Look at that. Crazy. So it's like, no, you're not done with the situation. You just don't want to deal with the situation when it comes to dealing with somebody that has the actual receipts. That's what this is. It has nothing to do with you being done. It has everything to do with you wanting to save face because you realize that your accusations are completely unfounded and unsubstantiated. That's exactly it. From the very beginning, I was being calm, chill, talking to this dude. I see what this is gonna be. It's like, what are we doing? Is this even a conversation? Come on, man. This is nuts. And refusing to answer. Simple question. These accusations, I could never get to that. And that's what I told you guys that I don't want to do anymore. I don't want us sitting here defending in the freaking void. There's something here, we got to figure it out, but we have no understanding, no nothing. Just start taking shots for what? If you're going to accuse him of something, tell me what specifically that accusation is, and we can prove that thing happened. So if you want to say, hey, he didn't pay out Kumite. Bum tried that. What did we prove? Nah, he paid out Kumite. Hey, he paid out people for this virtual fighter event. What did we just prove today? Or they'll put that tweet out there. This event hasn't even happened yet. He couldn't have paid for any flights for anybody. That's wrong. Then what? Okay, so what are you going to say? Oh, he didn't pay off Masher Mike. Well, here goes the screenshot. He did pay it. Well, he stole from Frosty Faustings. Here's a statement from Frosty Faustings saying they did a full audit and everything that he asked for, they paid for. Then, he stole from the MVC2 community. Well, here's a statement from freaking Fuji and Chris Matrix saying that they did a full audit with a full team on every single transaction involving Furby, and they directly drilled him, looked at all the receipts, and every single thing checked out. How many people got to come forward with these statements before we start saying, listen, I'm not defending anymore. The only thing that we need to do is find out what the accusations are, and if there is an accusation, then we'll defend it. Until then, we're not doing it. If I said CJ Showstropper, I meant Chris Matrix. Show me an accusation and we'll defend it. I'm not blindly defending anything. Art's already been proven innocent. He hasn't been proven guilty to begin with, and there's no actual standing accusations. As you can see, the three people who are claiming that there are accusations are all now done talking about the situation after we've exposed all of their various lies. We're not defending Art anymore. He's already been made innocent. Now we need to go to these tournament organizers and make sure that they recognize that he has been fully rectified. There has been no standing in these accusations, and so they need to remove these bans. That's where we're at now. We're not at the new stage of, let's try to prove some more. Let's add bank statements. Let's try to find some way of moving this goalpost now. What the freak are you talking about? I don't think it's absolutely unreasonable in any capacity to say that there's a substantial difference between bank statements and PayPal statements. I think that was a completely genuine and fair interaction that he accused me of bad faith for. Oh, you really didn't know that there was you really thought that they were different, a bank statement and a PayPal? Yes! What are you talking about? That's not bad. That's not bad faith. That's realistic. That's absolutely absurd. That's your piss poor communication. And I'm pointing it out to you calmly originally, and I'm saying, hey, I'm sorry, maybe there's a miscommunication. Oh, I see what we're gonna do here. What? What does that even mean? That's wild. Jay, you feel like you can do a better job of explaining what Rob meant? I'll entertain it. I just need like the small break. Give me like, I just gotta clear my head. Give me like 5 minutes. 5 minutes. What does that mean? It's freaking silly. Whole situation doesn't make any sense. You guys are trying to kill a man. Y'all are literally trying to take away his livelihood, everything he's worked for, his sense of community, all of the good that he's done. You're trying to throw all of that away and tarnish it and damage his good name. That's what you're trying to do. And now you're sitting there like, nah, I'm working in his behalf, even though I'm extending and moving the goalposts and asking for bank statements. It's just sick. This is sick. That man was dang near suicidal, and you guys are still trying to push for something. Freak out of here. This nigga's innocent. Stupid. Okay. Jay Defender, are you ready, buddy? Please, 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 better faith. Please, 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 please don't take up the energy from that last conversation. We can reset. We can have a decent conversation. Please, please, please. Okay, we can do this. I don't know you. I hope that you were intending to have good faith, man. We got this. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Honest to God. Listen, you guys are going to rewatch that video. You guys are going to rewatch that video, and then you're going to come in here and you're going to say, yeah, I was being very chill at the beginning. I was really chill. I was not sitting there raising my voice. I wasn't trying to disrespect him. Nothing. I was just being like, hey, like, okay, like, can I finish? Like, I kept asking him, can I finish? And it sucks because it's like, yes, at the end, I definitely, like, my patience was gone. It felt like it wasn't a conversation. I felt disrespected. And then I ended up just definitely just succumbing to that. But I was sitting there in the beginning like, hey, like we're chill. Bro, he did. He just went, he turned up and it's like, bro, I don't know. I lost it. I lost my zen. That was, I mean, I guess it's my fault ultimately for me, you know, responding to it. But that I was originally was like, yo, we're going to have a conversation. That was a freaking brick wall. Felt like he wasn't really engaging. What can I do? And mind you, they're trying to really cancel somebody who did so much. Hey, what's up, Jay? How you doing, man?
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine. How are you doing?
I'm good. Are you good?
I'm good. Before we get into the conversation, whatever it is, you can talk about whatever you want. But first, I just want to ask a few questions. Like, where are you from?
New York.
From New York, okay. And how long have you been in the fighting game community?
Since 2013. I started with Skullgirls.
Oh, nice. That's one of my favorite games. Game came from a genius programmer. You still actively play it?
Nah, I kind of dropped it. I used to play like socially with friends and stuff like that. Moved on to Smash and then moved back to. It was actually really funny. I started playing because of I wanted to get into Marvel 3 and I was intimidated with Marvel 3, so I picked up Skullgirls somehow, thinking that was easier.
I see. So you played Skullgirls for a little bit, quit the fighting game community, you started playing non-fighting games like Smash, and then you came back. Yeah, I'm just taking a shot for no reason. You know how I do.
I'm not going to touch that.
No. That was not a genuine state. I was just being a silly.
Of course.
All right, man. So what's up? What do you got? What's on your mind?
I mean, I was in your chat earlier and I watched the videos, obviously, and like how do I put this? My contention isn't anything to do with, you know, any of the insinuations on Rob on Art stealing, because like I've checked with the people that I individually know that would have been impacted, and you know, it was a situation like you outlined in the third video where it's from a time too far in the past to know whether it's a situation where yes, Art paid out to himself, but he paid in cash because, you know, the winnings were smaller, or, you know, something like that. So it's just one of those things where it's up to people's memories, and there's no like, ultimately we're not talking about like multi-$1,000 sums. It's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah, it seems like I don't even know your friends, but even having not actually dealt with it, it's not even not multi-thousand. Most of the time, the only questionable numbers are payments that were below like $20-$30. And so I would imagine, having not even spoken to your friend, they're probably like dealing with 20s, 15s, 10s, and things like that, right?
It was a sum of, well, one case was a sum of $24. Another case, he had, I think, gotten like top 3 NLBC or something like that. But it was yeah, no, those situations, they're just so far in the past, it's impossible to do any like actual
Right, any actual
pointing to
digging.
say,
But I want to point out,
you know,
so sorry, just really quickly, I want to point out that he had two policies for NLBC. One of them was if at one point, if the total pot was less than $100 or less than maybe 200, I don't know what the number was. If it was less than a certain amount, all of it went to the winner, because it just didn't make sense to say we're going to try to split $75 between first, second, and third. So in those kinds of cases, then yeah, some of those winnings would have went straight to the first place. Secondly, if the payments were incredibly small, then a lot of those things did end up being paid out in cash. So then for those reasons, it's like really sucks. And while I get that these were like long time ago, 2017, 2018 and things like that, like we can see over all of these venues from 2020, 2019, 2021, all of these things where all of these people were being paid out, like all of these players, and it seems like it escaped all of the known players and things like that. So now all we have is these random one-off tournaments, and it seems like to me that stuff would seem more like a clerical error than it would be, if there is an error at all, that it would be somebody intentionally stealing, right?
Yep. I mean, I have nothing to point to suggest that at this point it's even a clerical error, but you know, just on the off chance and leaving the possibility of it being that, like,
sure,
okay, cool, right?
Very level-headed.
I think that, you know, I think that the main issues right now are with, you know, just kind of figuring out. Obviously, there's a lot that Matcherino won't say to us, and that sucks. And there's a lot that's been put out, you know, painting Matcherino in a light where, you know, they do have questions to answer, and they won't answer because no corpo answers fucking the FGC. They don't care. So, basically, the situation we're left with is that we have a wealth of screenshots and things that take time to disseminate, and I think that's kind of a frustration that you may have to just kind of allow time to fix, where it's unfortunate right now that art is banned, but I think with the wealth of information that is available now, you know, pointing to, you know, the contrary, that, you know, this wasn't maliciously done, art wasn't using it as some sort of a payday loan system or something like that. Now that we have all of that out in the open, we just need to forward that to the people that matter, tournament organizers, people of that sort. And, you know, it's going to take time for people to, you know, kind of rectify the situation.
Sure. Well, okay, so it sounds like you're kind of parroting my point, because it sounds like basically what you're saying is that, yes, there's a whole bunch of screenshots and things like that, but those screenshots weren't used for just general purpose for us to be able to try to say, hey, look at this stuff. It was more so to dismantle the very pointed accusations that were coming from D-Nice, Bifuteki, and Bum. So now that like those three people seem to not really want to substantiate any of their accusations, they're not willing to stand by them, they're all quote unquote moving on, that at this point, what really needs to be done? Why would anything need to be done? Especially if we consider that people are innocent until proven guilty and there are no more direct accusations, then it seems like at this point, any sort of punishment or kicking him out of tournaments or anything like that should be unfair. Don't you agree?
No, but yeah, but in the sense of like the same way that the issue with art comes down to logistics, this is also an issue of logistics. You just have to give people time to kind of figure out, you know, what's going on, and kind of, you know, leave it up to them to reverse the decisions that were made, you know, based on the information that's out there.
But the decisions weren't logistically derived. It wasn't like, hey, here are the accusations that we have that are pointed that we can make these claims based on. So then at this point, then to try to say that the rectification would be logistically complicated when the accusations weren't well founded to begin with sounds a little bit unrealistic, right? Like you're saying there was no reason, you base it on nothing to ban him, but now we need to go through some complex things in order to rectify. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense on its surface, but obviously if there's a situation where, you know, even if these claims are unfounded, we're going to leave it in the hands of people to do the necessary research. And, you know, now that the information is out there and there's a lot of evidence that we know points to the contrary, a lot of, you know, tournament organizers and, you know, stuff have to, take it upon themselves to actually read. Like, I think the 3 videos in total were about an hour and a half. They have to like legitimately take time to go through that and, come to a decision by committee, on, because it's not a decision that I think was unilaterally made. How many videos? I think it was like 3.
It's 3, and they're not even, I don't even know if they total 1 hour. 24 minutes plus 23 minutes plus 7 minutes and 21. That 7:21 had nothing to do with like anything else. And then 5 minutes. So it's really 52 minutes. 53, 54.
I counted the last one as 28, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm numbers off the top.
It's 23:32.
Oh, okay, cool.
23:32, 24:34, and 5:55. So we can just round up if you would like. That'd be 24 minutes, 25 minutes, and then 5 minutes. So 6 minutes. So I mean, at best you got 55 minutes.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Again, I don't even like that. You see, at this point now, we're validating these unfounded accusations by giving them the logistical excuse for not getting out of it. Let me reiterate one more time, right? Or expound why. Again, if your reason for banning was unfounded, then we're not going to allow you the excuse that we have to go through receipts to unban him. You had no reason to ban him in the first place. It was an unfounded statement. It was a vacuous or vague statement, simply that there was a mishandling of funds. Mishandling of funds means that he was late. So you cannot ban him from tournaments for him being late. So you don't need to you don't need to peruse through these receipts or through these videos in order to try to get to the conclusion that he shouldn't be banned. You need to figure out, what is your reasoning for banning him to begin with? Do you have one? And if you don't, then it needs to be reversed, right?
Yeah, unquestionably. I'm trying to figure out how to put this in a way that kind of applies to, okay, just generally from my work, right? We have, like, I work a lot with, kind of adjacent to law. And one of the situations that we find ourselves with is, sometimes we run into clients and they'll be, kind of held for pretrial in, a facility here in Brooklyn, the MDC, if you're at all familiar. Unfortunately, sometimes, in trying to disseminate all of the discovery and things that we receive and, whether things make it to trial or not, we may get to the point, and I've been lucky enough to have gotten to the point where, someone is fortunate enough to be acquitted. But in the meantime, just while we're trying to figure that out, some people are unfortunate and, they're held in, what's known as a pretrial facility. And effectively what's happening right now is like, I hate to say that art is being wrongfully held in a pretrial facility, but like it, I don't know if that at all makes sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense. Don't run from that. But that's exactly my point. If you understand that he's being held in a pretrial facility, then you also understand why that's unjust. And that's been this entire claim from the beginning. That's why I said, until those bans are removed, this injustice is ongoing. Because you see, if there was literally no foundation for your original arrest or banning or whatever punishment that you're given, then until you have a justified reason, then you need to let him go and let things go as they were and let him continue to compete. That's exactly my point. So then anytime, if you're making the appeal that sometimes people are unjustly held in pretrial facilities, then therefore we should allow this to happen in the fighting game community where we have more direct control and influence, that seems a little bit ridiculous. But that's what you're basically making an appeal to. This corrupt, evil, unfounded, and unjust thing happens in the real world. Why aren't we doing this in the fighting game community?
How do I put this? It's a situation sometimes where when trying to figure out whether someone is, innocent or not, that, kind of steps or measures are taken, I would believe, correctly so, to kind of remove people from the environment where they have the potential to do harm, right?
Okay.
So I've seen situations where, like, let's say it'll be like a drug deal situation, right? They'll, sometimes associate someone as a flight risk, and they'll use that justification to hold them in pretrial. And we get to the end of the case, and thankfully the person is acquitted. But like, you know, it it is measures taken by those who can take measures to kind of do what they can in the meantime to, remove individuals from that situation, which is unfortunately also why a lot of times appeals for, or countersuits against, the government, for I'm revealing a little bit too much about myself.
You don't have to, but I get the analogy, but this analogy doesn't apply here because you're saying that they're removing him from the situation where he has the potential to do harm. And that situation would be preventing him from managing or interacting with Matcherino and Matcherino payouts. That I can understand, but that's not what they did. They banned him from tournaments. So explain to me how banning him from tournaments prevents him from doing the very specific harm, considering the fact that plenty of the quote-unquote potential harm, though none of it has been substantiated, would have been without him competing to begin with. How are these things correlated at all?
Personally, I don't think that he should have been fully banned from tournaments, but I think that, in kind of considering...
Wait, please answer the question. I feel like you're not going to answer the question. Just to make sure. The question was, how are these situations correlated at all?
Okay, so to kind of paint the picture of what might happen and why someone may take it upon themselves to have banned art entirely, right? If people are operating off of, incomplete information and their understanding of art when he goes to these events is, hey, look, there's the guy who, scammed the FGC out of thousands. And it creates a situation where they feel somehow right in confronting him about something that's still pending. That creates a situation that doesn't need to exist. And, sometimes it's in the case of, being liable and being responsible as, venue holders, you don't want to be responsible for any sort of a negative interaction that may happen, at your event. So a lot of times in removing art from the situation until things are, handled, it removes the possibility for someone to essentially try to be a hero, if you get me.
So again, I'm asking the question because you haven't answered it. How are these two things correlated at all? How is the direct punishment correlated to the idea of preventing harm, specifically with regard to his power, as you had originally stated? You said that the reason why you would ban in these situations, you went into the legal analogy about the idea of preventing people from the positions that allow them to do the harm for which they are accused. So again, how does preventing him from competing allow that? And now what the thing that you went into, it sounded like you're justifying harming his livelihood in order to prevent some bad acting, self-righteous hero from trying to do something harmful to art. And so as a result, he's being punished unfairly from being able to compete in the tournament, in the community that he has sacrificed 20 years of his life and almost generated $500,000 for. That sounds a little bit unreasonable to me, right? It sounds like all you keep doing in this conversation thus far is creating analogies where the system, our criminal justice system, is unjustly penalizing people and then saying, so this happens in the real world. And all I keep trying to get to is the understanding that this is wholly unjust and so therefore shouldn't be allowed or tolerated within the fighting game community. That's where we're talking past each other. So just to be crystal clear, do you think that it is a just thing to ban him in this situation with zero evidence to support that he did anything wrong whatsoever and completely unsubstantiated accusations? Is that just?
No.
Okay, then why are you making excuses for it?
I guess what I'm trying to kind of present is the perspective of someone who has to make the decision on, whether art, being in this kind of limbo that he was in for a period of 2 weeks, the decisions that they had to make on, how do I put this?
But I don't care about their perspective. You know that, right? This is the same conversation that I had earlier. I don't care about your intent. I don't care about your perspective. I care about what's right. And I'm making the statement, it is wrong. It is unjust. It is evil to terminate or relegate a person in this sort of position, given that there's no justification for doing so. I don't care whatever your perspective is. If it leads to something unjust happening, then it needs to stop. right?
I understand that, and I'm trying to work with that as best as I can. But we we kind of live in a world of context, and ultimately, while what's happening to art may not be just, there are a series of other perspectives that may kind of paint or influence the decision making of those in positions to make decisions. Like ultimately, and I hate to do this because I hate it when people say this to me, venue or tournament organizers and venue runners all operate on some level of a business of a business structure, right? And in kind of understanding their perspective of in a like the potential for a negative interaction to happen under their watch, they do they are just in, well, just isn't the
I was
word,
gonna say
but
you absolutely
yeah, no,
can't say
just
that.
isn't the word, but it it does it does create a scenario in which you know what they would do logically is protect their own interests
But if
regardless of
and
you
that's
know
exactly, and that's why the messaging should be, this is wholly unjust, and if you want to protect your interest, then you need to do what's justified, or else you lose the trust of your constituency and your patrons. And so at this point, if you're going to continue with this unjust punishment of a player, then the rest of the players need to band together and come and recognize that to continue to support a venue that would unjustly punish one of you, you have to recognize that that can impact you one day. And if that's the case, then as a group, as a collective, you bargain with that organization and say you will do the right thing or you will face the punishment, which is then we all will begin to not patronize your business. Because thinking like a business, if you're going to do unjust thing, you're going to lose the trust of your customers, right?
Yeah, 100% agree. Everything that you've said so far is correct, and I think that a lot of positive work has been done today on, people walking back statements and, kind of giving accounts that, Art wasn't in the wrong given, their series of professional interactions. That's not the person that Art has been, giving interactions from, people who were recipients that, that's not, who Art has been, and, and people are willing to do that with the understanding that yes, Art did violate terms of service and he did have a lot on his plate. You know, the fact that people are willing to do that, there is work being done to kind of create that bargaining power, as you mentioned.
Yep, and I think that's what needs to happen. I really don't like entertaining arguments from hypothetical, possible, projections onto the mentality of people that are leading to erroneous conclusions. Like those kind of conversations are grating because it's basically, let me explain to you the error in their thinking, but why they think that way. I don't care why you think that way. What you're thinking is leading to an erroneous conclusion, so therefore it must be problematic. And so I think the only voicing should be, you're wrong and here's why. Right? Like if I'm telling you this person is racist and hurting me, you telling me, well, let me just explain why he's being racist. You know, there was a point in time when some black guy did something to him, and so he's been holding on to that and now judging everyone. It's like, I don't care why he's doing it. It's wrong and it needs to stop. Well, sure, but just thinking about the context of why someone would do it, let's try to imagine the landscaping of what led to the, and it's like, I don't care about any of that. It's unjust. We stand against it. We don't need to justify it. And the more you argue for something that you don't believe in or give justifications through explanation for why someone is doing this unjust thing, the more it seems like it becomes tolerable, the more it seems rational, and I think that that becomes problematic. The only voicing around this is it is wrong, it is unjust, it is intolerable, and we need to stand against it. That's it.
I don't know if that analogy works one to one, but I see what you're saying regarding, kind of, trying to apply, kind of context to situations that are unconscionable or things that we kind of perceive to be, unjust from on its face, right?
Not perceived to be, it is unjust.
Well,
as we've argued thus far.
No, I mean, in the sense that, how do I put this? Unfortunately, people, while the messaging, yes, should be that, this is unjust and that's why, that's why it shouldn't happen. right? Or that's why it should be immediately corrected. And while I agree with that message, that's not how people have tended to operate. And while we could talk about why that's, problematic in itself, I think that uh I think that what might be most helpful right now is, instead of kind of amplifying and shutting down those voices, to instead put the information in the hands of someone who can, most immediately do something about it. And that's why I said that I think that it's very positive that, people are doing the mobilization on, kind of trying to give firsthand accounts of Art not being in the wrong, and then also pushing forward the information that Art did not do anything wrong. And they're pushing that information not only to, their audiences, which is helpful, but also to tournament organizers.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you. I think I got you. I feel like I kind of explained myself thoroughly there. And I appreciate your perspective. Again, I don't like ever justifying or trying to rationalize irrational and unfair and unjust conclusions. So that's going to turn me off every time. We should just be standing against.
I totally understand. I don't do it from a place where it's like, this is why I believe that, like, we have to keep Art in limbo, and obviously things suck and things don't work, and that's why whatever. Like, very clearly the information is out there that, Art is innocent. I think that, it's just going to take time for everyone else to get there. And I, would hope that, the people who are most important get that information as quickly as they can.
I'm saying I don't think that any information needs to be presented to them, even if I hadn't done the work of actually getting all these receipts and collecting them and like basically putting them into like a really easily digestible format. I think even without those receipts, this banning should have never happened. Do you agree?
I that's hard. I don't. Okay, from a moral standpoint, I don't think it should have happened, knowing what I know now.
Wait,
but
no,
again,
wait. Before I did that work, what would have justified their banning?
The situation that I kind of outlined on, people kind of protecting their interests.
What?
I think that ultimately people.
So it should be harmful to their interests. So let me just make sure I'm clear. So you're saying even with zero justification or substantiation behind an accusation, that it would protect a tournament organizer's interest to ban a person for being accused with zero justification or actual or whatever. You just think that that's just the accusation enough should be enough. It should create the reasonable response of banning someone from their tournaments. You think that that's acceptable?
It's not that I think that that's acceptable.
That's what I just asked you, though. Do you think that it's acceptable? What should have happened?
I think that it's acceptable.
So then it shouldn't have happened.
Yes.
If it's not acceptable, it shouldn't happen. You keep dancing around it. Yeah, you keep dancing around it where I'm like, but point blank saying this was wrong. Their original banning was wrong. And it's just like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And it's like, okay, no, it's terrible. But this is what happened. And it's like, yeah, but it shouldn't be. Yeah, but I know, but like, this is kind of like what happens here. And it's like, yeah, but that shouldn't be. Yeah, but this is the situation. It's really similar to this situation. That situation shouldn't happen either. Neither should this. Yeah, but I get you. But I'm just saying this is the mindset that leads to that. But that shouldn't, that mindset is wrong because it's leading to an erroneous conclusion and it's unfounded. I got you, but you got to understand some people won't have it. I got you, but they should. Yeah, but they might not. It's like all we're doing right now is you keep arguing everything you can to as much gray area around the justification of this really harmful and terrible thing, as opposed to just standing firm in the this shouldn't happen, it's not justified, it is wrong. And every time it seems like you keep struggling with coming to that perfect conclusion of it's wrong, it's terrible, we all should stand against it.
Yeah.
That's what this conversation has been thus far, man.
No, I understand. I'm just it's just difficult because I hesitate to, paint anyone in a light where it's like, this is somehow like yes, we can agree that the act itself is unjust and it shouldn't happen, but I don't want to treat that as an indictment on the people making the decision, given the other things that they have to consider, you know?
Yeah, but that's feckless. It's basically, yes, I know that this is right, and yes, I know that this is true, but I don't like declaring it. That's what you're basically saying. I agree with it. I believe it's justified. I think that it's right, but I don't want to declare that on the people who are doing the opposite of it. That's feckless.
I guess you're right.
You got to stand in your truth. If it's true, if it's right, then stand in that.
Oh, sorry, I'm reading the chat also, which is, part of the reason
I
that,
got you.
you know,
And so you're one of Rob
uh,
TV's friend?
no, fuck, what?
Oh, that's what someone said in the chat. I didn't know. I had no idea.
I don't fucking know, Rob. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, no. It's just no. No. It's cool. I'm not. No, I'm not. Just. I'm not. I don't. I literally don't know, Rob. But I just. I think that it's. I think that obviously you've done a lot of good work, and I think that it's going to get to the right people, over time. And yes, we agree that this shouldn't have happened in the first place, but now that it's happened, I think that you've put out the the necessary content for people to kind of, how do I put it, I don't want to say make them feel stupid and change it, but like, I mean, that's me being fucking casual, but I think you've given them the content that they need in order to you know um make the correct decision this time, I guess is the word I would use.
Sure. I think what my goal is not just for this individual time. My goal is to start trying to establish a new precedent, right? And I'm hoping that when the next situation happens, that somebody will be willing to stand. Because I genuinely believe, and this is not me trying to be some holier than thou or some self-righteous whatever, I genuinely believe, had I not spoken up, that this situation wasn't going to get resolved, because all of the voices were against art and no one was speaking up. So then to me, it feels like I feel like this like establishes a precedent so that people see the next time someone is accused, someone has to be the voice that actually analyzes the situation. And I think that they should look at the information and then start disseminating that information. That has to happen. That's what I think. And I think now people see that it can be done. You have to be thick-skinned. We saw Bum immediately start attacking me, trying to like talk about my relationships with like other like people in the community that the community might consider a pariah. Started literally trying to just like look and try to pick apart all of my content and all of those things. So it probably needs to be somebody who doesn't have any skeletons in their closet like myself. And then that person needs to be outspoken and forthright about the actual truth, so then everyone else feels more comfortable digesting it and then voicing their truth as well. Because had I not done this, I don't think that it would have been done. And I think there are plenty of situations where we can recognize where the truth needed to have been spoken and it wasn't, like Mike Z. So I think we just need to make sure that we all get behind these situations, and now other people learn how to do this so that the next time we don't end up in the erroneous situation. And I do think this is a learning opportunity. I think now once we bring this to the tournament organizers and explain to them why they're acting inappropriately by banning him, and they undo these things, that we don't just stop at, okay, fine, you undo the ban, but we also establish that from now on moving forward, that instead of banning people proactively, we need to ban people reactively, meaning we have justifiable action, justifiable reactions to justified accusations that result in a ban. Preemptively banning people is harmful to the player base, it's harmful to professionals, it's unjust, and we need to make sure that that signal is completely demonstrated.
It's just I
Don't be
agree.
feckless, bro. Come on, just own
No,
it.
it's not a matter of being feckless, man. It's just I I worry. Okay, let me put it like this, right? Um, and I hate to do this to set you up to be eventually wrong, right? But if a situation pops up and it's another one of those accusations that aren't founded on its face, right? And we don't take the necessary steps to protect you know, maybe not someone's wallet, but maybe just a marginalized community in the space. And, we wait for evidence that may not may not be able to, kind of come forward. And does that not create the situation where, the person can then go on to continue to do harm in the space? And, you know, would like I just worry that we're kind of, paving a bad road with good intentions in.
No, I'm sorry. What you're basically saying is, I'm sorry, the way of framing what you're saying is you're basically saying what happens in a situation where someone is accused with zero evidence. And in those cases, because there's no evidence, we don't respond to the non evidentiary claim. And as a result of that, a person does more harm. And I'm sorry, but that's the real world. And I'm not being callous. I'm being reasonable and I'm being just. In other words, the government doesn't have a right to seize my assets for no reason, but what happens if I might be stealing? Or one random person just goes and tells the FBI or tells the freaking IRS, just so you know, this bum guy, he lied about his taxes, right?
Okay,
And so
let's
now
be
hold on.
careful. Let's be
I
careful.
got no. I'm just. I was obviously
I'm
in hypothetical, but my
trying.
point being, I am being careful because I'm talking about a hypothetical, and anyone can tell that.
Yeah.
So, if say someone
Just
does that and makes that kind of a claim, if someone was to do that, then the IRS shouldn't immediately respond by seizing all of his assets. But guess what? If they don't, he has the potential to do more harm. That's fine. You can recoup those things, but you don't have the right. A person is innocent until proven guilty. And it sounds like what you're doing is advocating for some sort of situations where we'll treat a person like they're guilty before they are proven innocent because we're trying to mitigate harm. And that is harmful in and of itself. Either you believe in the tenet that people are innocent until proven guilty or you don't. And if you do, then you don't do anything until you can prove it. Right?
right. It I've run into I've seen situations play out in both. I think I've in the FGC and Smash community where, you know, just in my own personal reflection, uh, I wish that people had, kind of taken action earlier, if you get me. And,
But the better action to take
sometimes.
wasn't for them to immediately ban people. The better action to take was to begin investigating the claims the second that they were made. And I'm on board with that.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the action. But the action is not banning people. The action isn't restricting people. The action is to investigate the claims immediately. And then the harm
Yeah.
won't continue. But there's a difference between an investigation and a punishment, an investigation and a ban, an investigation and a relegation. Those things are different. And all I'm saying is that relegation or ban or punishment are not justified unless you have like some actual like you can substantiate them. That's all I'm saying.
So I guess I would ask then, you wouldn't believe in a situation in which, kind of pending the investigation, someone is removed from the parties that may have been negatively affected.
I think there can be specific situations where you can say, hey, while we're investigating this thing, sure, we can remove certain types of powers. This only applies to people in powerful positions. And I can obviously understand restricting power in the middle of a person being investigated, provided that the investigation isn't particularly long. I don't think you can say, well, we're going to do an investigation and this is going to take us 7 years. So until then,
Yeah,
Art, you're punished,
it shouldn't
obviously.
pend
It just needs to be done
indefinitely.
expeditiously. And in such cases, during the investigation, I can understand constricting some levels of power. But outside of the levels of power, no, I don't believe in any other restrictions. No.
Mm, okay. I mean, I guess, yeah, that's fair, because there are certain counterbalances that exist within, systems that I interact with, that, but there's no like real way to apply any of them to situations like this. And obviously, I don't care to get into the specifics of, what like what we can and can't do. Like, obviously every situation should be taken, you know based on the facts of those situations.
Yeah.
Extreme trouble.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I hear that. I got to go to church anyway. But I got a little bit more. Do you have anything else, or is that pretty much the like
No,
that's a
I
good
mean,
conclusion?
I guess what I would ask, uh having done the work, I guess what I would ask you is what would be appropriate from people, or what do you feel would be sufficient from people that uh have kind of levied claims, or kind of, because I don't know if it's logistically possible to punish the mob, let's say, but what would you like to see from the community in kind of rectifying the situation with art? Like, what
Um,
would be most useful? Like, a sorry, obviously a sorry may help some people, but what actionable do you think that the community could do?
I think one, I do think that obviously like being very forthright with an apology. Two, I think rallying behind that person and showing them support, maybe doing like a fund me or something like that. And, like people donating in order to show their support to Arturo for the year that he worked at Maturino and wasn't paid, and all of the sacrifices and donations and all the hardship that he's gone through. I think that would be
That's
like
a slimy fuck detail, by the way. I'm sorry to cut you off,
of
but
course,
that is so ridiculous to me. How, like,
100%.
he had to plug them for, I think it was something crazy, like, what was it, like, just a ridiculous amount of stream hours,
Mhm.
and not to be compensated for any of it. That's the worst ad deal I've ever heard of in my life.
Yes, it was. And so I would say that would be one of the things to do. I think, and I think that would be fair. Like I think to do that would be justified, and I think that would be that's something that the community needs to do. I think in a formal apology, and not just an apology specifically to art, but also the recognition that it was harmful, and the statement that moving forward that these kinds of things won't happen anymore. I think that would also be particularly good, and I think that would be justice, because it would, one, establish that, hey, we learned from our mistake. It would also establish the idea that this is not the way to go moving forward. And I think it would also establish to Art that he did something positive by being victimized in this way, by helping the community to learn better. And then I think also you can, as I stated, formal apologies from the 3 unfounded accusations. And I think also, just a complete unbanning and all of those things, and a complete clearing of his name, and like a total exoneration. So total exoneration, just, the different 5 apologies, total exoneration, some sort of financial thing to help him make up for it, removal of all of those kinds of punishments, and the acknowledgement that they won't be doing any of these things moving forward.
Escape and float into my